Donald Trump Jr. joins us now to give us his thought of the debate last night. And Don, I don't know why your father won't answer for the 847th time. Why, how bad the KKK is. I mean, he did issue an executive order last week saying that they were a terrorist group. But why are you holding Klan rallies in the White House?
Hey, Glenn, you just can't make it up anymore. And by the way, he answered the question twice.
I know he did.
Last night. The problem is they weren't talking about that. They were talking about Antifa. So I think he was trying to figure out what the heck he's even talking about. Joe Biden doesn't have to denounce Antifa. He can pretend, it's an idea, Glenn. It's an idea that magically burned down half the cities in this country, that are looting and rioting, that are literally killing people. It's an idea. Like, this is the double standard by which we go again. So Donald Trump can literally call the KKK a terrorist organization. Donald Trump can actually do things to fix the African-American community, like prison reform, opportunity zones. Joe Biden gets to talk about it for 50 years, not do anything, have his own vice presidential candidate essentially call him a racist during the debates, be friends with the biggest segregationists in the world, push for crime bills that destroyed so many in the African-American community. But it's Donald Trump. I mean, this is sort of the insanity that Chris Wallace wouldn't push back on a question to tell Joe Biden to denounce Antifa. I mean, they've waited 6 months to denounce Antifa, but no one talks about it, and that's the problem. That's why Donald Trump needs to be out there, needs to be that aggressive. It's not the tone we'd all love. We get that. But when you're up against that sort of onslaught, it's insane. I mean, when we last spoke, I talked about it a little bit, but it's actually very personal to me. Because these clowns spent 3 years trying to throw me in jail. They tried to say that I was colluding with Russia and doing it. But now we hear that Hunter Biden is actually that guy. There's Treasury wires that confirm that Hunter Biden took money from a known associate of Vladimir Putin, the wealthiest woman in Russia. Guess what? You don't become the wealthiest woman in Russia without associations with Vladimir Putin. And they won't talk about it. This is the dream, Glenn, that if I'd have done it, this is what they were looking for years.
This is everything that they accused you, your family, your father of, they themselves have done. Hillary Clinton, the news came out yesterday that Hillary Clinton, Comey, Bremer, who else was involved? Peter Strzok. They all knew.
Strzok, Page, McCabe, they all knew. They all lied about it. The ones that actually didn't lie about it before Congress still went on TV for 2 years after their sworn congressional testimony saying exactly the opposite, because they can get away with it. And that's the problem. So when people are like, well, he's very aggressive, I was like, he has to be. Look at the hypocrisy he's had to deal with. I mean, Hunter Biden has now a direct tie to Vladimir Putin and Russia. And you don't think they would use that over crackhead Hunter? Like, you don't think that we need leverage over Joe Biden later on in life? Same with China. Yes, no one's ever heard of Hunter Biden. He's never been an investor. He's never done any of those things. The Chinese government just gave him $1 billion because, they thought he was going to be really good. Come on, man. It's insane.
You're using. I love
we can't talk about it.
You're using the Biden. Come on, man. Come
on, man. I mean, that's his answer for everything. So he wasn't pushed on any policies. He didn't have to articulate it. He's able to say he doesn't support the Green New Deal, even though it's on his webpage. And he gets the best of all worlds. Then Chris Wallace, lets him speak for 2 minutes. But the problem with that, they're like, well, Trump interrupted him. You can't let the guy lie. Just things that are just demonstrably false. He denied that Hunter Biden got those payments. He said it's all above board. He denied that he had the thing that he's on videotape, essentially bribing Ukraine with aid. I mean, he lie after lie after lie for minutes. And my father's not supposed to get involved. He's not supposed to interrupt. And then when it's done, well, sir, you already had your chance to answer that question. It's like, well, I'm not supposed to retort to just never-ending lies. And that's been the story of this presidency. The media has chosen to be the marketing arm of the Democrat Party. And Chris Wallace is no different. Everyone's, he's from Fox. It's like, does anyone really believe Chris Wallace is a conservative? Give me a break.
Right. I saw last night, and I thought this was the choice in front of America. They were talking about COVID, and Biden was talking about masks and safety, and your dad was talking about opening the country up, trusting people with to make the right decision and open things up. And at one point, your dad said, People want their life back. They want to be able to live their life. And Biden immediately after said they want to be safe. And I thought, that's really the argument here. A big government that keeps you safe from everything except for them, and freedom. That's the deal.
Well, but what's safe, Glenn, when your business goes out? When you lose your job because the company that employs you can't stay in business because of an artificial mandate that's ridiculous. You've seen Florida and conservative states have treated it differently. They have less death rate than New York, which went a much more extreme lockdown while destroying businesses. But the real problem is the left doesn't care if they destroy your business. You may become dependent on big government. That's a win for them in the long run. If you're independent, if you're successful, if you don't need big government, like the left, it doesn't offer you all that much. So that's part of the problem. This notion that, we're going to keep you safe. Well, I don't know. Andrew Cuomo didn't keep New York safe, and he destroyed the economy. Ron DeSantis down in Florida, a Republican governor, has an older population, a larger population, a fraction of the death rate, and he didn't destroy the economy. When they talk about the economic numbers and the rebound there, Glenn, they say, well, the economy is doing pretty good. They've rebounded like never before. They don't even talk about that. Well, how about New York, California, Michigan, Pennsylvania, major states? They're not even back into the economy yet. And it's already doing well because Donald Trump built a fundamentally great economy. The fundamentals are there. These guys would love to shut them down forever. It's ridiculous. And by the way, they don't even talk about the notion of when you lose your job, when you lose your home because you can't go to your job, when you end up in a divorce, when you start drinking heavily and taking drugs and the suicide rate that ensues. They don't talk about that. This never-ending shutdown policy for nothing would probably do much more damage than anything COVID would do at this point.
I will tell you, your father answered that question, I thought, perfectly. Stop with this fake, is there somebody at your table that, is missing a chair or whatever the hell he was. And your father put compassion in its rightful place. Yes, we care about those people. But what about everyone else whose life has been destroyed? Let me ask you about accepting the election. In my opinion, I think most Americans like the peaceful transfer of power. Your father pointed out there wasn't a peaceful transfer of power for the first time under Obama. They were attacking him and plotting against him, and now we have the evidence. But we want a peaceful, and I will accept what the people vote for as long as it's not dirty. And I've actually heard people say,
100%.
I've heard people say, hey, Nixon walked away even though he knew it was dirty in Chicago. Well, and what's your point? If it's dirty, it's got to stop. And I won't at this point, I won't accept something that's dirty unless the American people want to choose that, then God help us all. But
I agree with you 100%. I mean, all we want is a fair election, but you see what's going on. You saw what was going on in Pennsylvania and the magical ballots all of a sudden disappearing. They try to conflate the issue of absentee voting in states that have been doing it for years with a brand new system in a state that's never done it, where they're going to send out 360 million ballots to every American in the world and hope that someone's honest. The Democrats are now pushing to make sure that the signature does not have to match. So the signature on the ballot doesn't have to match the registered voter who's apparently voting that way. I mean, Glenn, can you give me one possible reason why the signature wouldn't have to match?
No.
Unless you were planning on cheating? Of course not.
No.
So we want free and fair elections, but that's not what the Democrats want. It's not what they're doing. And the problem is in many of these states, the Republicans sort of roll over to their asinine rules that will allow them to create a system in which they cheat. I mean, look at just what's going on in the last couple of days with James O'Keefe and what he broke with Project Veritas on the stuff in Minnesota, in Ilhan Omar's district.
Did you hear that?
They have videotape of people buying ballots.
But the New York Times reported today that was a setup, that didn't show anything illegal. That's the New York Times today.
It's a setup. The guy's saying, I'll sell you the ballots for $200 and you can fill them out how you want. That's a setup. That's like Nancy Pelosi saying the hair salon set her up. Guess what? If you're able to get up, if you're number 3 in line for the nuclear codes and you're set up by your hair salon, maybe we should rethink your position in government. It's ridiculous. But that's the problem. The Democrats can say that, and it's like, oh, it's a setup. Oh, wonderful. Everyone toes the line. Everyone buys the sound bites. Like I said, if I'd have done a fraction of what Hunter Biden did, I'd be sitting in jail right now calling you from a payphone feeding quarters from Rikers.
Right. And your father would be impeached. Your father would be impeached.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And rightfully so, by the way.
Impeached and removed from office.
If I was raking in money from foreign governments with money tied to child trafficking and prostitution rings, I mean, this is real. And Joe Biden can get on stage. Oh, that's been debunked.
No, it hasn't.
There's a wire from the U.S. Treasury, Joe. But again, Chris Wallace doesn't say that.
No.
He doesn't question it. You know how many people in media are talking about it today? Zero. Now, that didn't stop them from lying about me for 3.5 years, running all sorts of wild conspiracy theories. CNN was doing it every day. I was in direct cahoots with Russia. I was a real estate guy before we got into politics. It's what I did. I looked at a deal. I took a meeting with someone who I looked at a deal with in the past. That's what you do. It's called maintaining relationships. Someone say, hey, can you take a meeting with my friend? Sure, you do it. Okay. Hunter Biden's taking money from a Putin associate, $3.5 million. For what services? What exactly is it that Hunter does and knows about Russia? What is it that he knew about energy in the Ukraine to get, $100,000 a month in fees for a no-show job in a business he doesn't know anything about and a language he doesn't speak? Please, because I want some of these jobs, Glenn. I just have a feeling if I had these jobs, I'd actually pay bigly for it.
Let me. I think America feels like we're going to war with each other. And there's just this impasse, and it's because we're not talking about real things like real corruption and real. We're being told that America is a racist nation. White people were born bad, and they'll always be bad. All this stuff that is just absolutely anti-Christian, anti-Christ in a way, and just destructive lies. We're going down this path tonight. I'm doing a special on their war game. I'm reading their words, their own words, where they are talking about secession as one of the options. If you're the label is, if it's a clear Trump victory, what do we do? And it's a whole war game of the chaos that they're going to cause after election night. I mean,
that seems to be their plan. I mean, they don't have a ground game. They're not knocking on doors. They're not trying to be out there. They're staffing up legal teams to challenge this later on. But that should be no surprise. They've been doing it to Donald Trump for 4 years. They haven't accepted the results of the 2016 election yet. That's becoming more and more clear. Again, now that we know it's the other side doing it, all of a sudden there's no interest in that knowledge. But does this surprise you at all? The reality is this: like they talking last night, about results. Joe Biden's been there for 47 years. I can't name a single accomplishment of his other than shipping jobs to China. He was really good at that, destroying the American middle class and getting his family rich. But those aren't good things for America. Donald Trump, whether people like his attitude or not, he has resolve. He gets things done. That's why we have peace in the Middle East.
Another thing not even brought up.
In the Middle East.
Another thing not even brought up.
Because it's positive for Trump. How about ending the endless wars? Because a couple of generals want to end up on the board of Raytheon in a couple of years. Hey, you know what? I'll send your kids to die in Afghanistan for another 30 freaking years. Like, that's their plan. I've been in the room with my father when he's like, okay, guys, tell us why we're still there, please. Well, sir, it's complicated. Okay, well, I'm the president. It's kind of a big deal. Like, tell me. Well, Well, the thing. It's asinine. They want to be on the board of Raytheon so they can, stay in the war so you can make missiles, and that's how you get your board seat and your retirement package. That's what it is. So Donald Trump has the guts to take on the military-industrial establishment, the establishment from both sides that is all part of that, never-ending game. When our own generals can't articulate why we're in wars for 25 years, that's problematic. And Donald Trump is the first guy to actually push back and get those things done. Why is Donald Trump the first guy funding, the task forces to prevent human trafficking and the child sex trade that the Democrats seem almost in favor of at this point? When I'm looking at what's going on with cuties and all of this nonsense, they're literally normalizing pedophilia, Glenn. This is the evil of the other side. I mean, I came out against it really strongly. Now, I usually do that, so I'm pretty much all in on any issue that I take up. And I figured, you know what, even in 2020, even with the divisiveness, you know what, this is an issue every American can agree on. Turns out I was wrong.
Right.
Turns out I was wrong. I had blue checkmark Twitter, liberal Twitter, trying to cancel me for being anti-pedophilia. Now, they're fine with Antifa, which is not Antifa at all. It's just fa, right? It's just fascist.
Yeah.
They're actual fa. I mean, they're literally taking every page out of the fascist playbook from the 40s and running with it. But by calling themselves Antifa, I guess people are dumb enough to believe it, and the media will run with it as though that's the gospel too. But I mean, think about it. I'm canceled by blue check mark Twitter for being anti-pedophile. And the left is normalizing. No one's asked Susan Rice why she's on the board of Netflix and what her opinion is on this. I don't know what her qualification is, presumably none, other than she's an Obama lackey, so that's the payoff for being Obama. No one's asking Obama, who's getting $100 million from Netflix, if he's okay with this and thinks this is normal type behavior. That's what we're up against. Right. And that's why I appreciate, again, and I know that it doesn't always rub people the right way, and I know you had issues with it in the past. I think you would sort of understand now the onslaught that Donald Trump faces every day, which sort of is why he has to fight back hard. He's the only conservative actually fighting that way in government. There's guys like us that are loud and vocal, but he's a guy that's actually a decision maker. Most of our guys, the second you have any sort of adversity, they tuck tail and run. Okay. They roll over and die, mostly because the other side would like you to. I mean, that's not the way we fight.
Don, I hate to cut you off, but I have to. We have network responsibilities. Thank you for being on.